Hi, I am Brian Gallagher. My research is on the user experience with a focus on the student user experience over the last 10 years. I've been researching on improving student learning using virtual learning environments with a focus on quality assurance and an aim to help others improve their own teaching and course quality. My presentations have always been interactive and explanatory, accessible and effective. So this is also how I teach and what I promote others to do, which is really good teaching practice. Okay, on presentation day, please feel free to ask questions as we go through. So today's presentation is Emergency Technology Implementation, a showcase of emergency remote teaching around Japan. So the study that I did involved 9 different universities. There was a range. They were from 3 small, 3 large, and 3 very large universities, of which one is my own university, Meijo University in Nagoya, Aichi. So the study was done from the regions of Hokkaido, Tohoku, Kanto, Tokai, Kinki, Shikoku, Chugoku, and Kyushu, and also involving Okinawa or the Ryukyu Islands. So hopefully I had full coverage or sample snapshots from the whole country of Japan. So I was, as I said, one of the universities of the 9. In the interviews, there were 2 female, 7 male respondents. All of them are acquaintances of mine from previous call conferences. So the universities were in Hokkaido, Aomori, Tokyo, Aichi, Osaka, Shimane, Ehime, Fukuoka, and Okinawa. Okay, so from north to south. So as I said, the universities ranged in size from small to very large. So the smallest one being Hokkaido with only 3 faculties, right up to university in Kyushu being 14. Okay, in the universities, the main learning management system used, well, as you can see from the table, there is a huge range. There is very little consistency across the country over what people used. Moodle was popular in a number of places. Manaba or Manaba variants were also popular. And WebClass was a feature of 2 of them. There were other ones that also involved, but they were not the primary or the main official LMS. There were maybe LMSs that were used by teachers that were, in many cases, they were circumventing the main LMS, which was deemed not appropriate or fit for use. The university decision-making process used in most universities, it is at committee level. Although in one university it was just done at faculty level, the decisions were made. But the process in general is hidden and it is not shared from university to university. Some universities don't actually know what the process is because even the members of the committee are also undisclosed, which is unfortunate. Later on, I'm going to be talking about my technology implementation decision matrix. It will be available in the link there. I'm going to show it later. It was a feature in the JALT International Conference in 2019 at the call forum, but I will come back to that later on. There was a range of IT or ICT support systems at the different universities. There were only 3 of the 9 universities had a dedicated IT department. Many of the universities had what they class as media joho, which is maybe a few staff personnel who could troubleshoot some problems, but it was not a proper full department. It didn't offer full support. But I guess there was one large university in Kinki, and they offered everything. Their IT support for students was excellent, and also teachers were offered training as well. Main operating system used by all institutions. In fact, in Japan, it is very common for Microsoft Windows to be used, although some teachers, of course, do use Apple Mac with their own research budgets. But it is common for staff and students to have functioning systems in the Microsoft. Away from the official systems, so the predominant student mobile phone, Apple is a clear winner in the country of Japan. Although in Hokkaido, they have a preference. There are more Android phones at that university than there are Apple iOS systems. So if we move on to campus connectivity, so of course all this technology is great if we can get access to it, and you can see generally from the table that Japan is now moving in the right direction in that Wi-Fi is predominantly good across the country. There are very few places where it is excellent, and there is only one university from this study that does not quite yet have the Wi-Fi. They're still working on LAN, so that's obviously something that they will be working on with a small university. I guess budgets are limited. You can see there, the kind of like the larger universities have more money, and of course they have better results for the Wi-Fi. The main teacher used computing devices. Predominantly, most teachers are using Windows. Some were using Mac, and very few also using Chromebooks. But normally Windows PC. So that of course makes sense because the students and the staff are using Windows OS. Teachers also asked about student preparedness. This was something that was very interesting for me to find out. Before students start to use technology, how ready are they, how prepared are they for using it? And you can see the result is very poor across the country. There were only a few places that were slightly better than very poor, which is something that Japan really needs to work on and improve. But of course, with the GIGA project at elementary schools, hopefully the country is moving in the right direction and people will become a bit more computer literate. And for applications used by a lot of teachers in these universities teaching languages, Zoom, Google Meet, Quizlet, Kahoot, Flipgrid, Elo, X-Reading, Padlet, WordWall, and BrainPop were ones that were favoured by a number of educators. But of course, there are many other smaller applications that are used. But these ones were the most common ones. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Zoom later on. Okay, so implementation of an online cloud-based video conference service implementation. Sorry about implementation twice. So really talking about Zoom was combined with two learning management systems. So the two learning management systems I'm going to analyze are WebClass and Google Classroom. If you're unfamiliar with them, I will introduce them to give you a quick look at what they are like. So I'm going to try and show, if I can, in detail the benefits and shortcomings of the implementation by using the 2019 Decision Matrix, which I mentioned before. And I'm going to try and further describe the pedagogical reasons why good decision making is still highly relevant. And the sample I'm going to go with is my own university. It's a major university. And as I said before, using WebClass and Google Classroom. So on the left side here, you can see this is the user interface for both the learning management systems. The Google Classroom, you can see that there is a little bit of art involved, and it lends itself to be much more friendly for image use. The WebClass is a much more sterile environment and incredibly text busy. Okay, so using the, the 2019 matrix, so the two I'm going to analyze are going to be the Google Suite and the WebClass. So I'm just going to show you the G Suite was in place before the coronavirus hit. In fact, it had been in place since 2005, I believe. And so analyzing Google Suite. So you can see that the overall score from using the matrix is a positive number, which means that I would recommend proceeding with the implementation. And the number is actually, it's a very, very strong number of +8. Now, how do we get to those numbers? Who makes those choices? I've made those choices because I'm a teacher at that institution, and I was gauging how well it's suited pedagogically for the students that we teach. So I'll just quickly go through the categories. First one is it will address a specific issue in carrying out the teaching. So the Google Suite gave us a wheen of activities that we could, applications that we could use. So like Google Mail and Sheets, and basically kind of like very similar to Microsoft Office, but of course it is all freely online and accessible anywhere and everywhere without any need for backup. Okay, the next section of technology will speed the process of understanding. So of course I think there is definitely some increase. I don't know if it's much faster. Technology will facilitate the understanding. I don't know if it facilitates understanding more or less than just with the students doing normal work in class. Do the students learn IT skills during the process? I think for sure they learn new skills, mostly just regular kind of like computing skills. But of course there are a number of parts of the Google Suite that are quite kind of like interesting and new for students. Are they transferable? Definitely, I would say they're usable in other areas. Is the technology will give us multiple opportunities in the future? Yes, for sure, they are incredibly transferable skills. What was the teacher preparedness level like before we went with the G Suite? I think a lot of teachers were already experienced, so I'm highly experienced with very good skills to teach with this technology, so I'm very comfortable. I'm very happy to go with that. As far as the students were concerned, was there enough technology for all the students to engage? At my university, there was not. We had a lot of shared equipment that came from the library or from our learning commons. But overall, that score there is a +8, so it was definitely well worth going ahead with that implementation. Contrary to that one is WebClass. Now for WebClass, did it address any specific issues in carrying out the teaching? It caused complexity, which was unnecessary, so it's got a negative score there. Did it slow the process or speed it up? Well, it did slow down the process of understanding because of the very clunky user interface. Did it facilitate the understanding? I think there was a lot of explanation there, which did cause a lot of confusion. Skills were, some skills had to be taught to complete. So of course it was very different from other systems that students had come before, not like social network systems that are very user friendly. It took a number of occasions to get the students to use it. Transferable skills, there were very, very few transferable skills. Most of them were just task specific only. They were just basically data entry. I don't think it will generate many opportunities in the future other than data entry, which I don't think is really a skill that requires much higher thinking. The teacher preparedness, I don't think there was much kind of like effect there. I think most teachers know how to use a new system, but it didn't help the teachers very much. Was there enough technology for all the students to engage in? Yes, there was actually an excess of technology available because the computers were available and our faculty had Apple tablets that they could use. Students had their mobile phones they could use to do it. There is actually a good smartphone interface on it. Well, I would say good, not great. So elephant in the room, of course, is the Zoom. I guess we're all using the Zoom to do our conference. So I want to try and also throw in, because this was emergency remote teaching, what would a Zoom score? Zoom would have scored a terribly negative score if it was going through the matrix, because it definitely created new problems. There was total interruption in classes to try to go remotely. The technology did create a host of new problems. There was a lot of skills that had to be taught to students in order to get it. I guess there was also equipment that needed to be bought if students didn't have microphones. But I guess many new devices are laptops, so that's not a terrible problem. Any skills transferable? Yes. I think once you've learned how to use one video conferencing system, it makes it easier to use a lot of others. Opportunities in the future, yes, I guess the world is different now. So Zoom is something that is definitely scoring a positive score there. As for stress, likely teacher stress, I don't know if we could go lower than -2, but there was very likely teacher stress. There was a lot of stress in it. And as far as enough technology for all students to engage in equally, there was a shortage of technology. The main technology was access to Wi-Fi. There was a lot of students who, because they were off campus using this technology, struggled to do it. So the Zoom just wouldn't have happened in regular times. Right, so just to kind of like quickly get to the end. So Mayo is a very large university. The committees, the budget were undisclosable. They remain to be undisclosable. So whoever is making the decisions, there were, to our knowledge, there was no teachers. There were very few teachers involved. There must have been some curriculae professor level putting in input, but for some reason, a lot of the classroom teachers were not involved. So as I said, the main LMS is the WebClass combined with the G Suite, but also remotely for the asynchronous lessons, there was on-demand teaching that was done with YouTube videos, and the live teaching was done with Zoom. But Zoom was not mandatory for students, and it remains not to be mandatory for students to log in and to do lessons. So in summary, the benefits and the shortcomings of this matrix are really clear to see. I think you could see by the positivity and the negativity of the scores. So the pedagogical reasoning why good decision making is still highly relevant, right? The specifics of how each scenario affected the language learning to students in real terms needs to be measured. So I think a lot of the feelings and the reportage from teachers, we might actually find that there was during the ERT period there was a lot of good things that came out of using our LMS, that it would be interesting for us to measure it. As far as the user experience from the perspective of teachers, it was manageable, but very stressful. Why time is lost, course quality suffered. but again, this needs to be measured for confirmation. The user experience is very stressful. Results are clearly reduced, content is reduced, opportunities are fewer, and remote teaching remains very problematic for many. Well, I think we should really kind of consider that Zoom has saved the day, but the learning process was consistently troublesome. There were always problems with the Zoom. So I think hopefully I've kind of shown so you have a good understanding of our university and how the matrix would have guided us kind of like best, but how best to implement the next new technologies as we move forward. Well, employ the decision matrix by considering the needs of the students primarily, right? Risky technology can be turned around, but with extreme stress and continual maintenance. Trust in the judgment of the teachers. Consider the user experience for all, so teachers and for students, and exercise due diligence when decision making. It's incredibly important. I think you'll see that from the matrix that it is only based on pedagogy, not on finance at all. That is somebody else's problem, and teachers shouldn't get involved in that side of private education. Okay, that's me. Thank you very much. I've been Brian Gallagher. If you have any questions, please contact me. If you'd like to see my slides, they should be available. You can contact me either through my research mail, briangallagher@gmail.com, or you can contact me through the university real at briang@majo-ulis.gp. Thank you.